The Book of Esther. Hathach went back and reported Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, "All the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death, unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their lives. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king." When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back his answer, "Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." The Book of Esther, it's a book in the Old Testament. It's a very small book with giving a very short history of a particular time of Jewish people. It is a story of an orphan girl who saved a nation by acting at the right time. The author of the book is not known. Some people say that it is one of the characters in it, Mordecai himself wrote it, and some people say it's like one Ezra or Nehemiah wrote this book because the style of writing is similar to what Ezra and Nehemiah have in their writings. So we don't know who wrote the book, and it was written about somewhere in the 460 BC, somewhere around that, when the people of Israel were spending their time in captivity in Babylon. So that's all about the book, the background of the book we know. The history is that the people of Israel were taken over, the country of nation of Israel was taken over by the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. And then during that time, it was around 600 BC, during that time Nebuchadnezzar found that many of these Jewish children, the young people, were very smart and very intelligent, and they were very good at skills like art and painting and science and technology. So he decided to take a lot of them captives and took them over to his kingdom to use them. And if you remember the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these are all the young children. He took over and took them to Babylon to train them in their culture there. So a lot of people were taken captivity and took them over to Babylon. And many years have passed, probably about 100 years have passed when this story of Esther is happening in Babylon among the Jewish community. So a couple of generations have passed. This was written in Hebrew. The original writing was found in Hebrew. Particularly, it makes sense because it was written to the Jewish people to record the origin of a certain festival the Jews still celebrate called Purim. The Purim is a festival that they celebrate to celebrate victory of good over evil. So in this story, the key characters are Esther, of course, that orphan girl, and King Xerxes, who was the king at the time in Babylon. Even though the Babylon was taken over by Persia, he's the Persian king now. They are under. And then Mordecai was Esther's cousin. He was an older person than Esther, but somehow Esther was found to be an orphan without parents. So Mordecai took over Esther and raised her as if like a father. They're cousins basically, but Mordecai is one of the key characters in this story. And then there is Haman. Haman is one of the evil characters in this story, where he was in the court of the king who was plotting against the Jewish people. So this is the structure of the story that we are discussing here today. But this is the only one book that God's name is never mentioned. So you cannot find the name of God in this book at all. That's the only book in the Bible. But surprisingly, God is the main character in these events that are taking place, even though God's name is not mentioned there. So if you ask me who are the characters in this book, God is the main character of this book, and the rest of them are the other characters that God had used in this book to win victory over evil. The historical significance I told you is about the Purim Festival that they do. The Jewish people still celebrate that. The Purim, the word means lot. So because of the plans and the trickery that was plotted by Haman, the evil guy who was close to the king, to destroy all the Jewish people, he decided to set a date to kill all the Jews in that kingdom. And he got approval from the king to do that by his influence. So instead of picking a date, he decided to cast a lot to pick a date. And so the name Purim means lot, picking a lot from a cup or a holder where you have picking lots to figure out a date for this particular killings that they want to do about the Jews. So it turned around that God used that opportunity to destroy the evil, and the Haman who plotted this evil against the Jewish people was put on death on that same day instead of the Jewish people. That's why the Jewish people celebrate. It's an ironic festival because they are celebrating Purim, who means lot, that was actually cast by Haman, the evil guy. The people are celebrating, the Jewish people are celebrating to win the victory because God used that lot to save the people. It actually was intended to destroy the people. God used the same lot to save the people. So this is the background of the story and the gist of the story as you come before this. We read here today about Esther, an orphan girl who was being raised by Mordecai in this Persian kingdom or Babylonian kingdom, which became later on as Persian kingdom. The Persian king was looking for a new wife. Surprisingly, that turned out to be an interesting event too, because the king was very excited about the beauty of his wife, and Vashti, that's what her name was, his queen. So he decided to have a big party for all the people, of the royal people and the big people of position and power. He gathered and invited all of these people to show the beauty of his wife, to celebrate that. But lo and behold, celebration, the party, the queen refused to show up. She refused to show up. I don't know what the reason was, but the king got so furious. He decided to throw away her immediately and started looking for a new wife. So when he started looking for a new wife, he sent message to all the messengers around the world to look for a new wife and asked people who are interested, young girls who are interested in becoming the queen, to apply for it. And Mordecai thought this was a good opportunity, that Esther might be a good candidate. So he encouraged Esther, a young girl who didn't have father or mother, but Mordecai was her whole guardian at that time. So he encouraged her to apply for it, and then she was selected. A Jewish girl was selected for a Persian king to be the queen. Look at how God works through the events in our lives, even when we least expect it. An orphan girl who had nothing to hope for in her future. I don't think she had any big dreams or plans, because she knew there was no meaning in having any dreams. But here, God has a special dream for that particular girl. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations like that. We think that our future is bleak and our future has nothing to look forward to. There is a God who is planning a better dream that you can ever dream of. That is how God is. God, if you look back in our own lives, that is the experience that we all have. Remember, things that we have gone through, it turned out to be better than we have ever dreamed of. God is a God who will give you the best that you can ever dream of, more than you can ever dream of. So that is why Esther was selected, and she became the queen. A young girl became the queen. Then all of these things, evil things, started happening around her. She is having a good life as a queen in the palace. Then this Haman, who was the administrator of the palace there, did not like Mordecai, because Mordecai also was a little official in that palace for some job that he had there. But Haman did not like Mordecai, and Haman wanted all the people to bow down before him. Every time he walked by, he expected everybody to bow, especially the Jewish people. He expected them to bow before him. And Mordecai, being a Jewish person raised in his faith, they are not allowed to bow before anybody other than God. Even the king, remember Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? That's how they are. They're taught like that, they're raised like that. And Mordecai said, no, I am not going to bow before you. And Haman became furious. So he decided to cast a plot, and he made a plot against Mordecai. And not only just Mordecai, he wanted to kill all the Jews, because he knew that the Jews are going to never worship or bow down before anybody. So he wanted to destroy all the Jews, because he found out that Mordecai was from Jewish background. So he influenced the king, and then king made an edict, and go do whatever you want to do. And he gave all the power to Haman to do it. And that's when he cast the lot to pick a date to destroy and kill all the Jews. But before that date came, Mordecai knew about this plan, and she sent a message to Esther, who is the queen. And that's the passage that we read here today. At such a time as this, God has placed you in this place such a time as this with a purpose. So please remember that since you are in a better place and you know you are safe as a queen, there is a whole lot of people from the Jewish nation that are going to be perished. Do not think that you alone are safe. This is the time that you have to rise up and act. Esther was caught in the middle. She has a good life, a comfortable life. She doesn't have to worry about the Jewish people. She doesn't have to go through this difficult situation to tell the king to change his mind. It is going to be a difficult thing, because to change the edict of a king makes a big effort. It needs a big effort to do it. Sometimes if the people who try to change the mind of a king can be killed. That's what Esther said. Usually people don't go to the king with a request, even if it is the queen. If you are not invited to the king, and the king is not in a good mood, he's going to kill them if you are going to visit the king uninvited. So she did not have an invitation to go to the king, but then Mordecai said, this is your opportunity. Take it or leave it. And what are you going to do? And then Esther sent a message to Mordecai saying that ask all the Jewish people to have a fasting and prayer. Then I will go to the king. I will put my life at risk and go to the king and ask for a different edict to be sent out. So that is what happened here. So in this situation where Mordecai challenged Esther, the queen, with the famous words, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jewish people will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance of the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to this royal position for such a time as this. If you were to ask me, if I were in a position like that, I would rather be silent, because I have a comfortable life. Silence can be deafening sometimes. A lot of times we try to be silent when we see evil and injustice around us, thinking that it's not going to affect me, it is somebody else's problem. The silence of the majority is very, very deafening. But hearing this, like I said, Esther decided to take a stand, and he wanted all the people to pray for her. And then she decided to go to the king. And eventually she told the king, when he was ready to listen, he told the king about what Haman did and what the evil that Haman had plotted to kill all the Jews, and she explained all of that to the king. And then the king got so furious, and in a rage, the king ordered Haman to be hung on the same gallows and on the same date that Haman was plotting to kill Mordecai and his people. That is what the festival of Purim is. How God turns around an evil to take it around and make it good for his people and be a blessing to his people. So if we trust our God, no matter what we are going through or what we see in front of our eyes, it may not be good or it may not be that happy, but there is a God who can take that very thing that you are afraid of and make it a blessing that you will enjoy and be a blessing in your life. Not only in your life, but also in the life of many, many others in this world. That's why it says that it is the story of an orphan girl who saved a whole nation. If she had kept silence and took her own business and say, I don't want to get involved, you handle it, it would have been okay for her, but who knows what would have happened to the whole nation of Israel and herself eventually, because she was of Jewish origin. Who knows what's going to happen to her? So Esther's role reminds of the fact that God has a unique purpose for each and every one of our lives in this world. I had the opportunity to attend a baptism yesterday. A little girl by name Hannah. And when I spoke there, they asked me to preach a sermon there. And the big thing that I was pointing to them is that Hannah is a blessing to this world, because Hannah is the one and only Hannah in this world that God has ever created, and there will not be another Hannah ever that he will create. There is no other Hannah in the past. There will not be another Hannah ever in the future. Each of us is like that. We are uniquely created to be here in this world at this time for a purpose. Don't think that we don't have a purpose. I don't want to get involved. I don't have a ministry. I don't have a gift. That is not true. We are all given us families. We have all given us opportunities and circumstances and churches here, wherever we are. God has placed us in this world at this time with a life, with a purpose behind it. And do not be silent. When we see opportunities, we have to be bold enough to stand up and do that with the courage that we have to do it. So remaining silent is not an option for a believer. Always get up and do whatever God is showing us to do. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said like this one time: a man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. That is when death happens. When we refuse to stand up and we refuse to do what God has given us to do, our life is not alive anymore. It is just like a dead life. So we must always take the stand wherever we need to. And neutrality or being silent is not a good option for God's people. Remaining silent in the face of a need or ignoring the need of a brother or a sister is a sin. We cannot just walk by seeing the need for somebody who is struggling in any way, and we have the opportunity to help. It is a sin if we don't help it. So as a young orphan Jewish girl living in this particular situation, Esther could have never imagined that she would become the queen of Babylon. So our situations are like that. We could have been taken away from this world many times, even though we don't know. But God has given us opportunities one after the other. And it is our time for us here to act and stand up for what God has given us to do. God is good all the time, and He is not going to fail us with His goodness. He's always there to take care of His children's needs if we trust in Him. And recognize the opportunity that God gives us every day and use it. And use it timely, and do not delay. If Esther had delayed a little bit, it would have been disastrous as well. So do not delay what God has given us in our spirit. We have opportunity in our church to do many ministries. Volunteer for whatever things that we want to do or God has given to do in your heart to support our church. Many times we have a lot of other things in our lives that we give priorities to. But many times urgent things are not as important as God's things are. Sometimes we consider urgence and importance. We don't know the difference. A lot of times phone calls seem to be very urgent. But how many phone calls are going to be important? Because you are tempted to take it and answer it because you think it is important. But phone calls are not important. Facebook, social media, TV, whatever time that you feel important, are they really important in our lives? Or they have to reprioritize some of the things in our lives? And then Esther's story is a very good story. If you have time, go back and read that whole book. It's a very smart book. It will give you the inspiration to do whatever God has given us to do and the opportunities to use it. May the good Lord give us the courage to stand up and do whatever we need to do at this opportune time that God has given us to do. May the good Lord bless us with these words as we go from this place. Amen. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. Darkness fills his lovely face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand.
Verse 4.
When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found, dressed in his righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. All other ground